Hello, grade 11s. So this video will only be for 5.4. I figured out it would be better to make it more simple. I'm not going to combine any other lessons with this. So what 5.4 is all about is about finding the equation of the quadratic equation if you are given the vertex and also a second point. Now, the vertex actually gives us a lot of information already. So for example, it says here, the quadratic function has a vertex at negative 2, 8. Now, first of all, where is negative 2, 8? Negative 2, 8 is all the way up here. Okay, so you can, roughly sketch out where it is. That's negative 2, 8 over there. And now, negative 2, 8 is the vertex, meaning our original vertex has shifted 2 places left and 8 places up. Now, last lesson we have already learned, how to shift a quadratic function based on P and Q. Those are what shifts the function. And then A affects the vertical stretch and also the reflection. And so if it has a vertex at negative 2, 8, it has already shifted 2 places to the left. Okay, so it has gone 2 units left and also 8 units up. And we know which two letters in the vertex form it has affected. And so we can now write that y is equal to a bracket x, 2 units left means plus 2 whole squared plus 8 because it's 8 units up. Now, the next part is we don't know what a is, okay? We don't know what sort of vertical stretch has happened. But we do know that there is a second point, okay? This is where the second point comes into play, okay? Because we know that there is a second point, that there is it passes through this x coordinate and this y coordinate. What does this mean? It means that with this sort of input, we would get the output of 7. Okay, this is what functions mean. Okay, if I input -1 into my function, I would get 7 as the output. That is what x and y mean. And so if I input x into my equation, that's -1, a times -1 plus 2 whole squared plus 8, then I would get an output of 7. And all I have to do now is solve for a. Now, -1 plus 2 will give me 1. 1 squared is just 1, so a stays on its own. So we have 7 equals to a plus 8, and all we have to do is subtract 8 from both sides so that -1 equals to a, or you can say a equals to -1. Now we found a. -1 meaning that it is going to be a reflection because it's negative, and there is no stretch factor. Okay, so all that happens is that it undergoes a reflection on the x-axis. So it would look somewhat like this, and we know that it passes through -1, 7, which is right here. So it's safe to, sort of sketch our parabola this way. Okay, so the last thing is, let's just rewrite it. Y equals to negative of x plus 2 whole squared plus q, and we have written it in standard form. Now, the second part is to write it in the general form. So the general form is just to expand the perfect square part, and then you add the q to the, sorry, this shouldn't be q, this should have been plus 8, sorry. And we add the 8 to the other number. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and expand the square. We have y equals to negative, and once you expand the square, this is going to be x squared plus 4x plus 4 plus 8. Now, the reason why I put a bracket is because the negative applies to everything inside the square. And so a lot of students would accidentally write negative x squared, and then the other terms becomes plus. They forget that the negative applies to everything inside it. So it's negative x squared minus 4x minus 4 plus 8, and now we can combine the minus 4 and 8 so that y is equal to negative x squared minus 4x plus 4. Okay, so this is now the general form. Let's have a look at another question, example 2. It says, determine as exact values the x and y intercepts of the graph of the function. Now, we want to know what the x and y intercepts are. It gives us the function in vertex form already. Now, the good thing about the vertex form is that we can find the x-intercepts. how do we find the x-intercepts? Now, let me just very quickly show us what the function looks like. I'm going to get my calculator out. How to do that. So first of all, we're going to do the y-intercept first, okay? That's the easier one to do. So we're going to set x as equal to 0, okay? So for y-intercept, we're going to set x equals to 0. So we have y equals to 3 bracket 0 minus 1 whole squared minus 9. And 0 minus 1 is just -1. -1 squared is just 1. And so we have y equals to 3 minus 9, in which y equals to -6. And that was the same as what we saw a while ago, in the graph. Now, the next part is we want to find the x-intercept. And the x-intercept happens when y is equal to 0, okay? X-intercept is when y equals to 0. So we're going to set the whole thing as equal to 0. 0 equals to 3 bracket, and we have x minus 1 whole squared minus 9. And all we have to do now is solve for x. Now, we're going to have to do some algebra manipulation. We're going to, move things around. So we're going to add 9 to both sides. So 9 is equal to 3 bracket x minus 1 whole squared. Now we're going to divide both sides by 3 to get rid of the 3. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 equals to x minus 1 whole squared. Now this part, we're going to have to take the square root because we want to get rid of the square. So when we take the square root of a variable, on the other side, you need to add a plus or minus sign because there are two answers, okay? The square root of x x squared can be plus or minus, okay? The negative version when squared will also produce the positive answer. So you need to add the plus or minus symbol. So now we have x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus of square root 3. And all we have to do now is add 1 to both sides so that x is equal to 1 plus or minus square root 3. Now this is our answer in exact form. Okay, this is our exact form. Now, sometimes there will be a second part of the question. It says determine as exact values and to the nearest tenth. Whoops. Okay, now if the question does tell you to give your answer into the nearest tenth, then all you have to do is put it into your calculator and put 1 minus root 3. That looks a little bit like this, okay, 1 minus root 3. And then you would get your first answer as x is equal to negative 0.7. And the positive answer, you would do 1 plus root 3, which is going to be 2.73, 2.7, okay? So that's how you do this type of question. Now, for the last question, we have example 3. It says the graph of a quadratic function is shown, the maximum point is shown, and the equation of the function, find the equation of the function in standard form. Standard form is also the same as vertex form. Okay, I prefer to use vertex form. And so it tells us where the vertex is. And again, that already gives us a lot of information. We can already put in P and Q in here. And then it gives us a second point again. So we can just substitute X and Y into X and Y to find A. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's write down, we have Y equals to A bracket X. Now it has shifted one place left. Okay, which means that it's going to be x plus 1 and then it moves 2 places up, so it's going to be plus 2. Now, the next thing is we're going to substitute in negative 3, 1. Remember, this is the x value and this is the y value. So I'm going to put in negative 3 into x and I'm going to put 1 into y. So 1 is equal to a bracket, and we have negative 3 plus 1 whole squared plus 2. And all we have to do is solve for a now. Negative 3 plus 1 will be negative 2. Negative 2 squared will be 4. So this becomes 4a plus 2 equals to 1. We're going to subtract 2 to both sides. So we have negative 1 equals to 4a. We're going to divide by 4. So a is equal to negative a quarter. Okay, we have a equals to negative a quarter. So now we can put a equals negative a quarter back into our equation. So we have y equals to negative 1 quarter x plus 1 whole squared plus 2. Now, if you want to double confirm whether you have got it correct, then go ahead and use your graphics calculator and check. Okay, so for example, what I'm going to do is over here. So let's continue with the next part. It says to find the x and y intercepts of the graph, answer both at exact value and to the nearest 100. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's find the x-intercept. Y-intercept is easier, so I prefer to do that first. So y is equal to negative 1 quarter of 0 plus 1 whole squared plus 2. So that's going to be 1. So y equals to negative a quarter plus 2. And you can just go ahead and put that into your calculator if you don't want to calculate fractions, but that's going to be 1 3/4. So y is equal to, I just prefer to use what do we call it? Improper fraction. So or decimal 1.75. Actually, it says exact form. So let's put it into fraction, which is going to be 7/4, or you can say 1 3/4. That's fine. Okay. So that's the fraction form. And then now let's go ahead and work out what the x-intercepts are. So the x-intercept happens when y equals to 0. So we're going to put 0 into this. 0 equals to, and then we have negative a quarter of x plus 1 whole square plus 2. So we're going to move the 2 over. So that's going to be negative 2 equals to negative a quarter of x plus 1 whole squared. We're going to multiply by negative 4. So this becomes 8 equals to x plus 1 whole square. We're going to take the square root and we're going to put the plus or minus sign. And so this becomes plus or minus of 2 root 2, because square root 8 can be simplified. And this just becomes x plus 1. And then we're going to subtract 1 to both sides. So x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus 2 root 2. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to find the exact the decimal place. So negative 1 minus 2 root 2, and we would get x equals to negative 3.83 as one of our answers, and the other answer would be, the plus version would be 1.83. Okay, so that is how we do this question. All right, thank you for watching, and I will continue with the other lesson summaries in the other videos.